Here is an item of daily use that you often find on your breakfast table. A simple loaf of bread reaches you as a result of several different activities. The story of a loaf of bread begins with a farmer growing wheat in his field. The wheat produced by the farmer is ground and processed into flour at a flour mill. The flour is baked into bread in a bread factory. The bread is transported to shops in different parts of a city and reaches your neighborhood shop from where you can buy it. All these activities that involve the production and distribution of products and services are examples of economic activities. Economic activities are classified into three different groups called the primary sector, the secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. Did you know the three-sector hypothesis that divides the economic activities into primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors was developed by Colin Clark, a British economist, and Jean Forestier, a French economist. Activities like agriculture are called primary sector activities. Besides agriculture, primary sector activities include animal husbandry like dairy farming and poultry farms, fishing, mining, and forestry. All primary sector activities use natural resources to produce natural products. Since the largest number of natural products comes from agriculture, the primary sector is also called the agriculture and related sector. Activities that use natural products or other raw material for industrial manufacturing of goods are called secondary sector activities. The secondary sector includes all kinds of manufacturing activities, from food processing to manufacturing of automobiles, garments, and electronics. The secondary sector includes all activities involving the manufacturing of goods in small-scale or large-scale industries. Thus, the secondary sector is also called the industrial sector. Activities that support the manufacturing and distribution of goods produced in the primary and secondary sectors are called tertiary sector activities. Tertiary sector activities include transport and warehousing, retail and wholesale selling, banking and insurance, and communication services. The tertiary sector also includes essential services like education, healthcare, accounting, legal services, law and order, firefighting, and office administration. Tertiary sector activities provide various kinds of services, including the ones that support the production of goods. Thus, the tertiary sector is also called the services sector. Though the activities of the primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors appear quite different, they are interdependent on each other. Let us understand the interdependency of different sectors through the example we used earlier. A failure of wheat crop in the primary sector would affect the production of flour and bread in the secondary sector, leading to reduced supply and availability of bread in the tertiary sector. Similarly, if the transporters go on strike, unsold stock will pile up with the manufacturers, while there will be shortage of goods at the shops. The primary, secondary, and tertiary sectors of the economy involve the production of a large number of goods and services. Every product or service has a value and comes at a price. This value is also called the market price of that product or service. Now, let us see how the value of production in different sectors is calculated. Consider a car. Manufacturing a car requires using hundreds of metal, glass, plastic and rubber components that may be manufactured by many different industries. However, when you buy a car, you do not pay for its individual components separately. You only pay for the final value of the car that already includes the values of all its components. Therefore, only the final values of goods are used to calculate the production in a sector. Every year, the government collects data on the values of final goods and services produced in different sectors of our economy. The sum of the total production in the three sectors in a year for a country gives the gross domestic product or GDP for that country in that year. We can also say that the gross domestic product is equal to the total value of all final goods and services produced in a country in a year. GDP is a globally accepted indicator of the size and health of a country's economy. Let us now see how much different sectors contribute to the GDP of a country. Statistical data reveals that the contribution of different sectors to the GDP of a country depends on the state of development of that country's economy. An economy starts developing based on natural resources and products. Thus, at the initial stage of development, the primary sector is the biggest contributor to GDP. In a developing economy, industrialization creates fresh job opportunities and people start using more and more manufactured goods. This is the phase where the secondary sector becomes the biggest contributor to GDP. In developed countries, people can afford and demand more and more services, leading to a rapid growth in the tertiary sector. Thus, in developed countries, the tertiary sector is the biggest contributor to the GDP. The graph here shows the change in the contributions of the three sectors to India's GDP from 1973 to 2003. The graph shows that although all the three sectors expanded, the tertiary or services sector recorded the largest growth to become the largest sector in India's economy. This graph shows the change in the percentage contribution of GDP by the three sectors from 1973 to 2003. The graph shows a decline in the contribution to GDP from the primary sector, a marginal increase in the contribution from the secondary sector, and a significant rise from the tertiary sector. Now let us take a look at the reasons for such a rapid expansion of the tertiary sector. The tertiary sector has expanded due to the government's initiatives for the expansion of essential services like schools, hospitals, banks, postal services, police stations, local administration, and the army. Another reason for the expansion of the tertiary sector is the development of transport, trading, and storage services to support growth in agriculture and industries. Rising incomes of people and a growing demand for better services like private schools and hospitals, and leisure services like dining, hotels, shopping, and tourism have also contributed to the growth of the tertiary sector. The tertiary sector has also benefited from the rapid development and expansion of communication and information services over the past decade.